It's Jules here doing another video on drawing, planning and publishing, and today we are looking at drawing cards for Mother's Day. So if you've got a mum you need to make a card for, whether you're 4, 44 or 104, then keep with me because we're going to do something quite cutesy with a cat on it. Especially if you like cats or if your mum likes cats, this one is for you. I'm starting off with just showing you exactly what I'm going to be using. I've got my mechanical pencil here, which is a Staedtler Mars Micro. I've got a Staedtler pigment liner 0.5, but if you haven't got anything like a pigment liner or a fine liner, then just use a biro, that's fine. Just make sure that it dries, as with any kind of fine liner. Make sure it dries properly before you start colouring. And then I've just got a few random colours here for doing some colouring. I've got some Crayola Supertips, and then this one is actually a highlighter. It's a Bic marking highlighter grip in pink. So put those aside for a minute. The other things that we're going to need is just some cards. This is the sort of card that you can buy that comes in packs specifically for making greetings cards, but you can also just use a thick piece of paper. And if it's A4, fold it in half, then fold it in half again to make it A6, and an envelope that fits. Oh, and I've also got trusty rubber just in case something horrendous happens and we have to rub stuff out. So I'm just going to start with drawing some very fine pencil marks just to show me exactly where things are going to go, and I'm going to sit my cat right in the middle here. So I'm going to start with an oval shape that's not completely horizontal, and I'll show you why in a minute. So there's a sort of egg shape that's slightly skewed upwards, and then that's the cat's face. We're going to call it a her, and a body. Now the body is proportionally much smaller than you'd really get with a cat, a proper cat. And that's because when you are looking at things that are cute, if you think of babies, proportionally their heads are much bigger than their bodies. So if you're trying to make something cute, make it have a big head with big eyes proportional to its body. And again, it's going to be slightly not horizontal. So there's our horizontal line, and I'm going to make it so it's slightly skewed and not quite straight horizontally. And then tail comes out like this. And then to do I'm just going to do front paws. I'm not going to bother doing back paws. So you do W and then one more. W and one more. Ears are going to be like little triangles up the side of the cat's head. Again, you can make them quite big if you want to. And then a nose, an oval nose right in the middle, and two round eyes either side of that, quite big. And the pupils are going to be they're not going to be right in the centre, because if you have them right in the centre, that gives the cat a very gormless look, like it's not quite sure what it's doing or where it's meant to be. But if you bring those pupils in a bit, so they're quite close to the nose, then that makes the cat have a more cutesy kind of expression, and it looks like it's looking at you rather than looking through you. And then a little mouth, smiley mouth, and we're going to put a tongue there as well, so it looks like it's happy, super happy. And 3 little dots either side of the upper lip, and whiskers are going to come out the side here. So that's our basis for the cat, and I'm just going to zoom in so that you can see that really well. There it is. And then to do the lettering, instead of doing something that's going to be really hard work, I thought we'd make it very easy and use sort of quite a whimsical style of doing text. And the words are going to be Happy Mother's Day to my, and that's above here, and then down the bottom, perfect mum. So I'm just going to first of all plot out where it's going to be. Happy is going to be at the top. And I suggest that you make the letters as ununiform as possible. That way you can't really show any mistakes. Mother's Day, because that's a lot more letters in it, it's going to have to start quite far over. Now I haven't really left enough room here, so when I actually come to do this with the pen, I'm going to have to make sure I close the gap a bit between these 4 letters here. And then 2my over here. Down here, per. Hyphen. Fect. So purr as in cat's purring. Perfect, mum. So, okay, going in with my Staedtler now. So I'm going to use, where I've drawn the pencil, I'm going to use that almost as the skeleton, and if you imagine now we are going to add the skin and the flesh to each of the letters. So I'm going to draw round it, giving myself plenty of space so that I can colour in between. Remember to make your letters quite quirky, so where I've got those 2 P's together, they're very different looking, and that way, like I said, if you make a mistake, it's not noticeable. Now coming to Mother's Day, remember I said that these letters, the O, T, H and E, need to be over that way a bit more, so I'm going to remember that. I'm actually going to swap my pen as well, because that 0.5 is a little bit old and the tip is a bit, it's not as sharp as it could be. Actually, I've got another 0.5, and this one is a uni pin, I think that's what they call it. So let's give that a go. Oh yeah, a lot better. I need to go and buy some more pens. So I'm going to move the O across a bit. Then with the T, I'm going to drop it down a bit. So that's the other thing, is not only do they not need to be the same size, they can be further up or down on your line as well. So that has actually given us a bit more room just by moving the T and the E down a bit. We can then bring that R in. Don't forget the apostrophe. And then I'm going to drop the S down as well. So if this is something that you're a bit concerned about doing just straight off the bat, you can do it in pencil all the way around the letters. There is no such thing as cheating when you're coming to drawing, and I quite often say to students and children when I go into schools that it's fine to copy somebody else's work to see how they did it, and that's how a lot of artists learn how to do things. And this time I'm just going to do one single line, so I'm not going to be colouring these letters in. So much to the consternation probably of some teachers, by saying it's okay to copy. But really that is the best way to learn how to do some things, and if you want to copy what I'm doing, then that's fine. I'm actually going to make sure that you can get a copy of this so that you can put it underneath your layout paper or a bit of copier paper and just trace it straight through. The word perfect and the word mum are going to be bigger than the other words on the front of the card, because this is the point of what you're trying to say. And I like doing my letters like this, completely without any kind of worry about perfection, because you can't get a typeface on a computer to look like this, because they're all different, and it shows that it's handmade, and it's more fun to look at, I think. And you know, shows that you've actually taken some thought and effort to actually make something. And of course, it's much cheaper to make one than it is to go out and have to buy one. Sometimes you go into card shops and you're looking at cards that are maybe £4 or £5 for something that you could definitely do yourself at home. And if you're somebody who thinks, well, I'm not really very good at drawing, you don't need to be good at drawing for doing this, because I'm showing you exactly step by step how to do it. And like I say, you can just trace this off if you want to. So that's the text done. I'm going to move on to drawing the cat now. I'm going to draw the nose first. I've had a little bit of a camera mishap, so you've missed me drawing the face. What I was saying as I was drawing it the first time was, I've drawn the nose before I drew anything else. Then I drew the eyes so that that last piece of the circle is behind the nose, so you can't actually see that little bit there. I think I'll just zoom in quickly so you can see that. And then a big smiley face with a little tongue here, and I'm not going to draw that bit there around the head. I'm just going to draw up around here, back to that next piece of the ear, and then I'm going to join those two bits up together. So hopefully you've managed to get that bit okay. I'm going to draw those dots in probably after I've done the colouring, just because I don't know how this pen in particular is going to act when we've got some of the Crayola Supertips over the top of it, so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to do these little paws next, and then join up the body, like that, and then his tail, her tail, sorry, it's a girl, isn't it, and her whiskers, which whiskers would normally come out from here, don't they, mostly? They do have a few whiskers around the side of their face, but they normally come from here, but I don't want to do that bit at the moment, like I said, because of needing to do some colouring. So I'm going to give this 5 minutes or so to dry, and I'll be back with you in a few minutes. I was having a quick think whilst this was drying, and I'm going to whip out these guys, which are brush pens, to do my lettering. Again, you don't have to do this, but if you've got some brush pens, then I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do this. And you can also use the Crayola Supertips for doing this. These are the ones that are really cheap. You can get them anywhere, for supermarkets, places like Staples, or if that still exists, WH Smith's, that sort of thing. These ones I got from Amazon. If you have a look on go on Amazon, you've got a choice of about 10 zillion different sorts of brush pens. These ones are called Newdoer, I think that's how you pronounce it, which are the cheaper version, or a cheaper version, of something like Tombow, which are the super duper ones. I'll put those aside for a moment. And whilst I'm rubbing stuff out, I just wanted to remind you that if you subscribe to the channel and become part of the community, then you will be able to have a look at videos on drawing, planning and publishing. So let me break that down a bit. Drawing is stuff like these sorts of tuitions about how to draw things. I've done buildings, I've done unicorns, I've done people, and I've got things coming up for the whole of this year which are going to be really useful for lots of people who want to learn how to draw something in particular. Planning is all to do with the fact that I write my own children's books, and now have 11 out, and that's my main full-time job. So I do lots of things about how you can get going on writing your own stories and how you can go about publishing them as well. So keep tuned for things like that. And then planning is all about bullet journaling, because I discovered through the other things that I do, the other parts of my work, that actually bullet journaling is a really, really, really good way of keeping track of what you're doing and when you're supposed to be doing it. So quite frankly, I don't know what I'd do without mine now. Okay, let's have a look. We'll do the cat first of all. So I'm going to use this, which is a sort of a gingery colour. I think that's probably the closest to ochre if you were looking at paint colours. And we're going to make him, her, I keep getting her gender muddled up, maybe she's just gender fluid. This cat is going to be like a little gingery kitten. So I'm just going to draw some triangle shapes, starting from quite a big one in the middle of his forehead. Here's her forehead. And then some at the side of her face. And then round the tops of the ears like that. Maybe just some little bits going across the bottom. Be careful you don't go across the tongue. Like that. That's pretty cute. And then some stripy bits across the tail, and you can press quite hard then, you get a nice thick line. But make sure it has a white tip. Little white tip, and then we're going to do a couple of the little toes, and then we're going to need to do some more of these V shapes coming in from the back, maybe just 2 each side, and that shows that that stripy colouring is across the cat's back, and then it's got a white chest and tummy. Next job is to do the nose and tongue, and for this I'm going to use the highlighter pen, only because really I quite liked the colour. And when you're doing the nose, just leave a little white area, and that shows that his nose is shiny. Okay, cat done. What I didn't do, which I think I would like to do, is just some little flowers and a little bit of grass. So I think I might actually do the colour first. We do this sometimes when in my other videos, is do the colour first and then the fineliner over the top. That way you're not going to get any smudging or bleeding of the pen. Just going to do 2, they're teardrop shapes, and then you've just got 1 in each of the corners, if you like that. Then I'm going to take my green Crayola Supertip, just kind of do a bit of scruffy bit of grass like that. And then I'm going to let those colours there dry before I put the fineliner on. So in the meantime, I'm going to show you a really good method of getting a gradient. So you need to take the lid off of both of your brush pens. You're going to start with the pale one, and you're going to very quickly go in with the dark one at the bottom of each letter. So you do 1 letter at a time, and you're going to then go back in with the paler one just to bring some of that colour up. So starting from the top, going down, swap, do some at the bottom like that, go back to the first one, bring that colour up. This works really, really, really well on paper that's specifically meant for drawing with marker pens. This is quite cartridge paper like, so it's quite absorbent. So that means you do have to work really, really, really quickly. So if you want to try this out, you could give it a go first on some scrap paper just to see how you get on with it. I'm going to stop talking for a minute and I'm going to speed this video up so that you can see how it starts to pan out. Once you get started, you get into a kind of a rhythm, and you can be quite speedy at doing it. And also, it doesn't matter if you're a little bit over the lines and a bit messy. It just adds to the character of your card. And if you don't have brush pens, that's fine. You can do it with colouring pens, or you could do it with some chalk pastels. If you go into somewhere like in the UK, if you go into somewhere like the Works, they've got chalk pastels very cheaply, and you can just pick them up for probably a £5, maybe less than a £5, and you can have exactly the same effect. I'm just using the darker pink to just do that little heart, and we're nearly there. Just the last thing to do is to finish off these little flowers and the grass, and I think that's a perfect time for me to tell you that next week I will be doing Plan With Me April for our bullet journals, which will be something else from my nature journal from last year, which is now out and published as a book, Blooming Marvellous. If you want to have a look to see how it came out, then go over and have a look at my website, which is julesmarinerbooks.com, and I'll link all that below so you can have a good look at it to see what might be coming up for April. The last thing that I'm going to do, which I do with all of my different creations, is just to give the cat some eyes. Right, so I've got here, I don't know what this is, what sort of pen this is. It's a random, quite thin tipped blue felt tip pen. So I'm just going to give our little kitty cat down here some irises, which all goes to help make it look like it's, you know, got a real character. So that's I'm just drawing around the outside of the pupil, very fine line, and there we have quite a nice little Mother's Day card. You can fold it in half along the crease like that, and there you go. You can write your message inside. But the other thing that you can do, which makes it feel a bit more like something that you've really thought about, is to do some sort of drawing on the envelope. So I'm just going to do some hearts. I'm going to use this brush pen again, and I'm just going to do some little hearts like this, which I'm not going to be too precious about. They're not perfect, because in a minute I'm going to go over them with a fine liner. I'm going to use the other colour that we used earlier and do some different ones. Leave a space in the middle for us to write Mum. And I'm going to use a thinner fine liner, which is probably more like a biro thickness. I'm going to use, if I can find it, where is it, 0.2, which is this one. This one is a Graphix 0.2 line maker. And I'm not going to go exactly to the exact same size of the heart. I'm going to do my own thing inside it, like that. There you go. Write Mum in the middle. There's your card. Write your special message in there, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and poke the bell to join the rest of the gang. I'm off to do some alligator wrangling. I'll see you next week. Nanu nanu!